This is Drekavec.
This is Imperator from Vitandus, and you're listening to WCAL 91.9 FM.
And death to all false metal.
This is RJ of the Y2RJ radio show on Caliu's Best Music 91.9 FM Power 92, here with the gentleman from black metal band Vitandus. And Vitandus is comprised of the Imperator, sitting right across from me, and Drekavec, the bass player. How are you guys feeling today?
Pretty good.
My first question for you guys appear to be like a younger band. To describe the formation of the band for me.
I said 2010.
Yeah, 2010. We actually met over Craigslist. Around the areas that we were both at. Not too many people were into actual real metal. They were mostly into like deathcore and metalcore, and which is fine, but not necessarily something that I wanted to play. Just sent an ad out over Craigslist, and he responded, and that's how it started.
During that time, we met up and jammed, and we liked how each other played, and we just kept coming back and hanging out and just jamming mostly because we didn't have a drummer, and that was a very long struggle. And at the time, we just tried to produce what we could do.
Yeah.
At the time, we were just looking out for drummers eventually.
And so with the drummer you guys have now, does the band sort of gel together now?
Yeah. Sam's definitely, the drummer is always the backbone of the band. Without the drummer, it was kind of more of like jam session, so there was never really any cohesive. We'd work on songs, but we could never really complete them because there was no timing to. There was timing, but there was no beat to them. We had stuff going on in our heads, but we couldn't really do it. Then whenever Sam joined, actually earlier last year, about summer. When was it? June-ish?
Yeah, it was around there.
About June. It was just like the push that we needed to say, okay, we're got all the bare bones basics that we need. Let's start actually forming songs and doing stuff.
Now I think I gotta ask this question. It's really kind of a typical question, but what kinds of metal artists do Vitandus raise the metal horns towards? What do you guys say?
It's a very difficult question, really, because it's three influences coming together into one.
Drek's more of a
black
metal dude. I come from a basically almost strict. Basically, until I met him, I came from an almost strict death metal background, like Cannibal Corpse, Hate Eternal, that kind of stuff. And then Sam comes from a doom metal background, like sludge and doom, like Weed Eater and Electric Wizard. Yeah, definitely Electric Wizard, and Black Sabbath. So it really all three forms of that, I think, mesh together in a pretty cool sound. Anything by Behemoth
and Triptychon.
Yeah. Triptychon, Celtic Frost, You really can't pick any album solely because every album, unless it's absolutely perfect, which no album is, you really can't pick anything out. So we really just go by which artist we like the most albums from. And that list can go on. We could sit here all day and go on with that. And if Sam was here, we'd be here for a couple of days. So.
Triptychon and Behemoth, they're very big inspirations and influences in our music, and it is audible in some aspects as well.
Now, are there any specific non-metal influences within the band?
I'd say, I've listened to a lot of ambient Celtic stuff about a lot of Norse paganism, like Wardruna, which is Gorgoroth's side project with Gaul. Very into that type of music, and that influences a lot of things. We also have an intro to our EP coming out that I kind of put together with that kind of feel.
Definitely, for me, it's more classical music and blues, R&B, stuff like that, coming from a more, specifically like jazz and classical, come from a more technical music theory mindset coming from that direction, and then Dustin basically comes in and is like, let's take all that theory and mess it all up, and this is what we're going to come out with. So.
Now, in relation to that, do you think you could describe the link between the metal music with your non-metal influences?
Blues started it all.
Yeah.
No matter what anybody says, blues started it all, and classical gave way to blues. As much of a stretch as that may seem, classical and Southern gospel gave way to blues, and blues gave way to metal, which is basically the opposite of gospel. So I think that's kind of a cool turnaround.
The emotion that we feel in it, we all have a good connection to blues, and that's something that we can all share. It's probably a good connection.
Now there is a video of you guys performing a Black Sabbath classic, Lord of This World, out on YouTube. It kind of reminded me of Gummo. by harmony chorine. Do other mediums such as film or literature play a role in the inspiration within the band?
Literature, definitely.
Literature. Yes.
For lyrical content, I draw a lot of influence from Lovecraft and other artists such as that. Anything that I can draw inspiration from, I can. I'd say photography is usually pretty good. We like real desolate-looking photography, old, abandoned, stuff like that. So we draw a lot of inspiration from basically standard black metal, cult-looking type stuff. So.
And I mean, also themes, the absence of humanity, I would say.
Yeah.
Some of our music
Misanthropy.
Yes, music revolves around a lot of that. Backed behind a lot of history and ancient times with paganism and Christianity and other religions that clashed in those times.
Yeah, well, I'd like to know, what level of hard work would you say goes into the creation of your music?
There's definitely, with my part, I'll come up with a riff, and I'll stress over it, and I'll come up with parts. Basically, for a whole song, I'll have maybe 6 or 7 riffs that I like, and I just can't really form them together. And then whenever I get together with our drummer, Sam, he'll basically sit me down, listen to what we got, and then it honestly just goes from there. Like our last song for the title track for our EP, Macabre Incarnate, was actually written the night before we went to the studio, just because it went like that. One of the songs, which one was it? Was written the night before a show. So really, it seems like, and honestly, those are the songs that we like best, are the ones that just come right off the cuff, and that honestly seems to work for us now, and we hope that continues, because that would be bad if it didn't.
I often just mostly follow as bass, but I also give some advice and input as well to help. I try to add that raw black metal sound into it as well.
He'll say, that sounds cool, try tremolo picking here, just do a couple real quick chugs here. He definitely adds more depth to the sound than that was already there with me and Sam's workings. So.
Well, what about in terms of networking and playing shows for a heavy but a young band like you guys?
Definitely we're playing with more seasoned, experienced bands in the Pittsburgh scene, like Machete Facelift, United by Hate, Lithium, Grizzly Amputation, Leprosy, definitely. Honestly, these guys, I have to give a big shout out to Rob Wilcox, because he's the one that definitely said, okay, for you guys, don't know what you play, come out and play your first show with us. So definitely Rob Wilcox and Lithium, we thank you a lot for that. And Machete Facelifts, and they were on the bill with that too. And they took us under our wing and said, this is what you did right, this is what you need to do. And it's been going great like that ever since. And it's honestly more of a party atmosphere whenever you get us and Machete Facelift and Lithium and UBH all together on one show. So.
Now, what would you guys have to say about our EP that you guys have been working on?
Macabre Incarnate. It's definitely a juvenile release. It's not as polished as it could be, but it's definitely something that we're proud of. We think it'll melt some faces. And we basically came up because our drummer's in Chicago, so we don't really have the luxury of practicing every week. We practice maybe...
Not much.
Yeah. Before our last show in September, our drummer came back the night before, and we ran through the songs, and then we went on stage and played. So it's definitely a little bit stressful, but with the way that things work out, I think we write quality, not quantity, in that sense. So that's how I feel about it.
And the album itself, Mark did a very great job on mixing it, and we finally got to hear our sound. And I'm actually very amazed that we managed to do all that in the span of time that we had. It just blew me away. It's just a lot.
Mark Palmieri is definitely one of the most underrated recording artists in the Pittsburgh area. He definitely has a lot of talent that I think he should own a studio for, but he's pretty much okay with just recording bands for cheap. So
interesting. Now, following your performance of the Winter's Wake show and following the release of the EP, what would you say is at this point next after that? Just playing a few shows, possibly a tour, or more material?
It actually all depends on what happens in the summer. We plan on actually recording our full length over the summer, because by the time that Macabre does drop, we will have 3 or 4 more songs already written. So expect something probably around September, October for full length Vitandus wise.
I would say on top of that, we'll probably be playing a good bit of shows.
Yeah, over the summer,
and
definitely.
Definitely a lot of promoting our EP for the time being on internet, radio, and Facebook, wherever I can put it, you know.
Basically, anybody that'll put Vitandus on their bill will play the show for.
Now, what do you think the ideal weather temperature is to enjoy a Vitandus recording?
Cold. Absolutely freezing.
As long as there's no leaves on the trees, I think our music would be enjoyable.
It's definitely not something to go out during the summertime and play while you're having a picnic with your family. It definitely deserves the right atmosphere, which is cold, dark, frostbitten, grim.
Atmosphere around like Pennsylvania, does that like play a role in that as well? Like,
definitely agree, especially with my influence in it. I live in the forest pretty much, and it's very hilly and mountainous. It reminds you of Northern Europe in some aspects. And it definitely does play a part, I would say.
And I was born and raised on a farm about 20 minutes outside of Pittsburgh, so really there's nobody around. So that's where a lot of like desolation, loneliness, kind of misanthropy stuff comes from. I don't like being around people.
Same here. I mean, I think we have a higher respect for nature than most people.
Yeah.
As well.
And just one more question out of comical curiosity. Metallica or Megadeth?
I'm going with Metallica because I think Dave Mustaine's a so.
I'd have to say Megadeth.
That's where we split.
We have several conflicts like that.
This is Vitandus. Worked on their new EP, their first EP, Macabre Incarnate. They will be playing the Winter's Wake show February 25th at the Shop, all ages, in Pittsburgh, PA. Opening up for bands like Argus, Motorcycles, Complete Failure, and others as well. So check that out, guys. And this is Vitandus on 91.9 WCAL Power 92.